Welcome to the Adrienne Ross Show, where sports and culture connect. I'm a day late, but better late than never, right? Yesterday, which was December 21st, it was World Basketball Day. And the Indiana Fever put up a post on X asking a question that got quite a bit of a response. I'm going to answer the question, and then I'm going to ask you to also answer the question in the comments. Before we go any further, let me ask you, if you have not hit the subscribe button, please subscribe to the Adrienne Ross Show. Like, comment, share, all the good stuff. Bust the algorithm wide open. Okay, happy belated World Basketball Day. Let's take a look at the question the Indiana Fever asked on social media. What a great question to ask for World Basketball Day. It is, who made you a basketball fan? Who made you a basketball fan? And you can see here they have 171.7K views. And also, as of right now, 565 comments, 1.3 thousand likes, and it's been shared 217 times. And you have things like CC22, my father, he liked Walt Clyde Frazier, Clark again. And we have my dad, but also at different points in my childhood, teens, 1989 Flying Illini Final Four team, 1996 Women's Olympic team piqued my fandom, and Taja Catchings, the sister of Fever legend Tamika Catchings. And there are some pictures here. So, yes, this is the 96 Olympic team just before the WNBA jumped off. And there we have Catchings here. Looks a lot like Tamika. My goodness, those sisters. Okay, we have other people. Initial interest was because of Miss Clark, but the Fever team got me hooked and made me a fan. And of course, my heart, Coach Pat Summitt, who inspired me tremendously. Someone else says my dad. And then someone has a whole list here. And on this list, we get some of the old guys, Iceman, George Gervin, Clyde Drexler. We also get and David Robinson. Of course, we also get Cheryl Miller, Cynthia Cooper, Tina Thompson. All right. Okay. Caitlin Clark, who brought me back to watching basketball after not caring about the sport for over 20 years. And of course, she brought a lot of us back. Talks about Larry Bird, John Havlicek, Bobby Knight. Is a picture of Caitlin Clark. And so it goes on and on. Caitlin Clark introduced me to the WNBA, started watching NBA like 7 seasons ago. Love Durant, Havlicek, Bird, now CC. Oh my, CC 20. I'm just reading some of these now. I saw a few of them before, but I just went down a little further than I had seen. 2024 Rookie of the Year, Caitlin Clark, followed very closely by the rest of her teammates from Iowa and Indiana. And then, of course, Michael Jordan, Rodman, Penny, Fab Five, Caitlin Clark, Magic Johnson, Kobe, my daughter, Diana Taurasi, Caitlin Clark. And we could go on and on. I want to weigh in on this too. I think this is such a great question to spark conversation. So again, I'm asking you to tell your story. What or who made you a fan of the sport of basketball? I'm assuming I shouldn't assume that if you're watching this channel that you're a fan of basketball. I mean, I just recently rebranded. I've always talked about everything from A to Z, which I'm still now doing, but now on the second channel, Adrienne Ross Squared, squaring off from A to Z. Had to put that plug in there. I will have the link in this description for this video. You can go check out Adrienne Ross Squared. But anyway, back to what I'm talking about. Yeah. Who made you a basketball fan? If you are a fan of basketball, who or what made you a basketball fan? Now, my story. I honestly cannot remember a time when I didn't play basketball. I don't remember the first time I ever picked up a basketball. I don't. I was very young. I mean, because my memories go back very young. I remember my dad playing pickup basketball. If I was at the park with him, I remember seeing that. I remember getting out there and playing around with him a little bit, but I had already been playing basketball. So I remember as early as fourth grade gym class in Long Island, New York. I remember playing basketball. I remember the drills that we used to do when you would go from baseline to baseline, and they would teach you how to dribble looking up. You go down one way, one hand, you come back down with the left hand and you pass it off to the next person. They made races out of it and all that other stuff. I was pretty good, pretty young. But again, I don't remember the first time I picked up a basketball. At some point I fell in love with it because my sister and I both, we would play as a child. We would be out in the freezing cold with snow on the ground, and we would be trying to play basketball. We'd have to sneak to do it sometimes because a bunch of us would go into the school the schoolyard where there were the outdoor basketball hoops, and we would play. And we actually played on a team. This was Hempstead, New York. We actually played on a team in elementary school, like fourth grade, fifth grade. And Title IX came around, was signed into law in 1972. This was after 1972, but we didn't have buses going to other schools, but we played other schools at that young age, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, whatever it was. I don't think I played in fourth grade. I think I was a cheerleader in fourth grade. But then I remember being on the basketball team, and we didn't have buses to go. And we would actually get in the car of Mrs. Robichon was her name. She was the gym teacher, phys ed teacher. And I correct that because anybody who's been a phys ed major will correct you when you say gym teacher. They're like, the gym is a place. It's called physical education. That's the class. Anyway, Miss Robichon was her name, and she was also the basketball coach. And she had a station wagon, and we would pile in her car. And when I say pile in her car, I don't know how this was legal. I mean, I know this was before you had to wear a seatbelt, but I don't know how we got away with it, but I recall just being in the back of that station wagon. You got some people lying this way in the back with their feet going that way, and you got other people going this direction with their feet going this way, and we were actually lying on top of one another. It was the wildest thing. And we would go play other teams. And I was pretty good. I remember gym class in junior high. We would do these races, these layup races, and it was a lot of fun. And um it started really young, and I just developed a passion for it. And then I didn't get to play as consistently when I was younger as I wanted to play because my Aunt Mary wasn't really, you know, she wasn't, she helped raise me, and she wasn't really into the whole, she really didn't really care. Like if you got in trouble for the little smallest thing, it was like you can't play on the team. But I remember one time my sister and I were on the team, and mom didn't know it because she was working, and we got caught because she called the house and there was no one there to answer. So she had the neighbor come knock on the door, and he told her we weren't there. And I got my behind whipped that night. I remember that well, but it was so that we could play. And so that was the end of that. That was elementary. And then junior high, I think I only played 1 year. Anyway, it's been a long journey, but I have this memory. It's not a fun memory, but I have a memory when my sister and I moved to Queens with my aunt Alma, and it was nighttime. It was winter. It was cold. We cleared off some spot with snow in it. There was this apartment, little like apartment complex or building. I think there were only like one. I think there's only one building uh in that, and you weren't supposed to. There was a sign you weren't supposed to play in there if you didn't live in the building. And my aunt Alma was working a night job, and my sister and I went out at night, and we went to that basketball court in for this house for the people who lived in that area, in the housing, that building. And we went in like we had done before, and it was late, it was dark, and we were playing. And I still remember this. It was so scary. This man shows up, big burly man shows up, and he is livid. Get out of here. What are you doing here? He's a white man, and I say that for a reason. And he took the gate, he slammed the gate, and he was livid. And if you know anything about my sister, you know she gonna tell you where to go and when. but I was scared. It was dark. We were back there. This big guy. I don't want to tell anybody anything. I just want to say, okay, we won't come back. Let us leave. But he was, he was furious, and I'm like, I said, we're not doing anything. So I think I was in high school at the time. I definitely was in high school at the time. And I'm like, we weren't doing anything. He was like, my sister wasn't doing anything either when your people did whatever they did to her. I don't know, but he was mad at black folks apparently for something that he says they did to his sister, and he just didn't want us anywhere near there, and he was just outraged. I was so thankful when we were able to he let us leave because he was the one between us and the gate, slam the gate. But whew, I still remember that, and it was not a cool thing. But I say that to say that's how much we love to play the game. I mean, we would go out. It was winter. There was snow on the ground. I remember even being younger than that. Your feet are icy cold. Back then, you weren't even wearing like basketball sneakers, right? Back then, you just played with anything. There wasn't a whole lot to cushion your feet. And we would go, we would sneak out if we had to. We would play in the winter. We'd move over some snow if we had to. And we just played. So I just loved the game. That's my story. But what made me a fan? I was a fan before I realized I was a fan. I don't remember the first time I picked up a basketball at all. But my mom even still jokes. She's just like, you and your sister and your sports, because that's how we rocked and rolled. I mean, whether we were watching it, I remember watching the Knicks when I was in high school. Point guard as a senior captain of the team, and I did not have a left hand at that time. And I remember I watched Mark Jackson. He'd come over from St. John's. He was playing for the Knicks, and I would watch how Mark Jackson would back down his opponents, and that helped me when I didn't have a left hand. And I remember the next game. I'm like, I'm doing what Mark Jackson does, and it worked tremendously at that time. And so, yeah, I mean, we grew up Mark Jackson, watching Georgetown, so Patrick Ewing and all. I mean, and it was the thing. It was what we did, and on as an adult. So, what about you? That's my story. My story is I don't know. I always was. Well, we were a sports family, I guess. So baseball was on the house. It was on in the house, and my uncle loved boxing, and my dad loved basketball, and my dad loved football as well. So I don't know, just talking, just sharing, answering the Indiana Fever question a day late, but that's okay. Basketball is ever a thing to talk about. Who made you a basketball fan? Are you like some of the people in those comments? Several of them said Caitlin Clark, which it is an Indiana Fever. It is their page on X, but it sounds like quite a few people came to the sport because of Caitlin, and I know that already because some of you say as much in the comments. So, how about you? Chop it up in the comments. Let us know how you became a fan of basketball if you are, and let's have some fun conversation. All right. I will catch you next time, God willing. God bless you abundantly.